Welcome back, guys. Before we jump into this week's episode, I have a big favor to ask. If you get 2 minutes to vote for the Beyond Condition podcast as the Listener's Choice Award over on Apple Podcast, this would truly mean the world to me. I'm going to pop the link in the episode description, and I'm also going to put a link on my link tree that you can find on Instagram in my bio. Honestly, every single one of you that listens and has been through this journey with me as a podcast host, it genuinely means the world to me. And the podcast would not be where it is today without you listening every week. You truly are my motivation to continue being in your ears and supporting your journey every single step of the way. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we have until August the 29th, 2024 to put the votes in to see if we can get the Beyond Condition podcast into the Listener's Choice Award. Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. And today's guest would have heard that intro plenty of times because, of course, you are one of my loyal listeners. So where do we begin? Because, of course, is this your first proper podcast?
Yes, I've never done one before. This is the first one. I'm not very good at talking on the camera or in general. Very introvert, extrovert. Yeah.
I love how you said that, actually, because bodybuilders, bodybuilding does attract a lot of introvert people because, of course, it's quite a solo endeavor. But do you find that when you find your right people, you can actually be quite extrovert in a way?
Yeah, definitely. When I'm around the right people, they just bring out that energy in me and I can be myself.
Now, before we jumped on, we might as well share this, actually. Let's start nice and soft. I asked you how we say your name.
Yes.
You shared the episode with Scarlett, and when I first spoke to her, she was like, everybody spells my name wrong. So they say Scarlett with 2 T's. So thank you for getting it right.
It always happens. It's the spelling of the name, isn't it? People always trip up on that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, of course, thank you for your time today. And we're going to be talking about your journey as a professional bikini athlete. And of course, you have got a little one. Well, not so little, but
No, he's 11 now, so he'll be going secondary in not so long. So he's not so little anymore.
yeah, that, of course, gives a bit more substance as well, because as competitors, right, we know that this is a tough sport. But then when you have, you've got a little one, and there's various things that we'll talk about today that have sort of got you here today. But for sure, it gives those different elements to what an individual journey can be, because I think a bit like what Scarlett was saying, for her, it was like she's been a competitor and then had little one. And it's like, will I go back to the stage? Because, of course, the sport's getting more and more competitive. And for yourself, how old is your little one?
He is 11 now.
Yeah. So did you had him before you got into bodybuilding, or?
Yep. So I started in 2022. So yeah. Yeah.
You don't look old enough to have an 11-year-old.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. It does feel weird saying that I have an 11-year-old. Is growing up very quick. Time just flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I guess as well, when we're going through these multiple phases, there's always a timeline. There's always something coming up, even if you've got a longer off season. It's like you're always doing something for the stage as such. So for competitors, I feel like even more so at times, because you've always got that goal of, I want to look better next time I step on stage,
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
you're always counting down, sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking ahead.
This is actually going to be the first episode as well of the Competitor Journey series. And I always ask my guests, well, you're probably going to know this already, but what would you tell your younger self when you first started bodybuilding if you knew what you knew now? I mean, you might not listen to yourself, but is there certain things or a certain something that you feel you've sort of learned on your journey where it's like, actually, I wish I'd known that at the start?
Just, I guess, the pressure we put on ourselves. Like, the only pressure is the pressure we literally put on ourselves. There is no outside pressure. And I feel like the more I've competed, the more I've kind of delved into bodybuilding. It's just taught me to just go with the flow and just enjoy it. Because like 9 times out of 10, you will do it and you just wish you could do it all over again. But the build up to it is the pressure you put on yourself, and you feel like it's some big thing, and you create it into this massive, worry, and you get anxiety and nerves, which is normal. But at the same time, we can just ease that off ourselves a little bit and just enjoy it a little bit more, because it goes so fast as well. Especially like you do all this prep, you'll get on the stage and you're on there for like what, under like a minute sometimes. So it does go really fast. So just enjoy it. Just enjoy the process. Don't wish time away, and just literally just be present in the moment.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because it's super, super important. And, you've got posing clients as well, haven't you? And of
Yeah.
course, what you're doing in your prep, and I'm sure you tell them that bit of advice, because you do
Yeah.
all of this, especially if you've competed before. And like I mentioned, in off season, this could be 2 or 3 years for that few minutes. And then if you don't,
Yeah.
and it does go so fast. And even with bikini ordinarily being right at the end of the show, and all day you're like, I need to hang out here. But
Yeah.
it's
I've
like,
learned to enjoy that as well. Like the fact I've seen it as, before I used to be like, oh, we're on last, it's not fair.
yeah,
But now I'm like, no, we get a full day, make the most of it, get glammed up as early as possible, get as many pictures, spend time with the family, get used to the venue. Like there's loads of positives to it. As much as we would like to be on first.
I know. Well, I actually heard, I don't know if it's true, but many, many years ago, I heard that it's because bikini often bring the most spectators and it's often the busiest class. So they put it at the end to keep the audience. Now, I don't know if that is
Okay.
actually true,
Okay.
but it sort of makes
It
sense,
could
doesn't it?
be. It could be.
Yeah, because you know what it's like. If I've been at shows that are, all day, and then towards the end when the audience does dwindle, it's quite hard for the competitors, because it starts and everyone's, and I'm sure you're the same as well. I always warn, if people are coming to watch me compete, I'm like, guys, please give all day. I can't
Yeah.
say we're going to be done by 4 p.m.
A
because
certain time. No.
yeah. What's the latest
Just
you've
never
been on
know.
stage?
I think 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a long day, but it was a fun day. Lots of memories.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, I know your coach from many years ago, and of course, Mr. Fox, Coach Fox, Michael, whatever we want to
Yeah,
call him. He
yeah,
actually sent in some questions as well, and a massive shout out to him, because, like I said to you, it's super important as a coach, if possible, that we empower our clients to do things that are out of their comfort zone. And this
yeah.
podcast is, of course, something new to you.
Yes, yeah. He did a podcast not long ago as well, so that kind of inspired me to say yes and just go for it. And he's always pushed me out my comfort zone from when I started with him. So yeah, it's one of the
When did
things.
you start? How long have you been coaching with him?
Since the start of 2022.
Okay.
We did a photo shoot, and yeah, that's where it all started.
Yeah, oh, I love that. So, well, the question, that one of the questions that you asked was, what made you ever consider competing? So was it him, or?
Well, before lockdown, I did look at doing body power. Can you remember body power?
Yeah.
They did a mum's category, and I thought, oh, maybe I could do that. And then lockdown happened, and that thought process went out the window. And I seen an advertisement Michael had put up, and it was for a photo shoot package. And I thought I wanted to challenge myself after lockdown, see if I can give my training another level of focus and just challenge myself and push myself out of the comfort zone. And we got to that photo shoot, and he was like, would you not consider competing? Because I think you'd be very competitive. And yeah, he just kind of swayed me to go that way. And yeah, I'm glad he did.
For sure, because of course you have been very successful. If people follow you on Instagram after this, or already know who you are a bikini champion, you've got multiple pro cards, and it just shows, doesn't it, that if someone believes in you, what that
Yeah.
power can bring, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like his belief, without it, I probably wouldn't have done it. So yeah, it does take that one person to say, I think you can do this, and you just taking that leap and just going for it.
For sure. And with your posing coaching, so we have to know, of course, when you first started out bodybuilding and started the posing and things, did you find it was quite natural, or did you find it was quite hard?
No, I always refer to this in my posing clients. I'm like, you should see where I started. If somebody saw me practicing, I'm surprised they didn't tell me to stop right there. Okay, it was awful. The drasticness of it, the way I was moving around. Even watching videos about myself, I'm cringing. But we all start somewhere.
Like some of the things that I'm sure you'll pick up when you're helping people with posing, we sort of as we go through it, and we've done it for multiple years, and we learn the way, as it were, you sort of you forget, and then you look back and you're like I was doing some weird shit on stage, and I think, what the hell was I doing? But ordinarily it's because you're very nervous,
Yeah,
and you start doing all these things with your hands, or you get that shaky leg, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Yeah, I've had that a few times.
Do you find now, where you are a pro, have you found a change in when you approach the stage and when you're posing, that actually that drops off? Because I found certainly I still get that sometimes, but not every time.
Yeah, I'll still get the nerves depending on what show it is and how big it is. And yeah, I don't think that will ever go. I don't think that will ever go. But you just learn to cope better, and use different strategies before you get on, and just compose yourself a lot more. And I think it will always be a matter of fact of wanting to improve. You'll get up there, you'll get off, and you, no matter the placing, I always come off thinking I could have done this better and that better. So I don't think that will ever change. Even now, I feel like I'm constantly improving on my posing and practicing certain elements and just making it a bit more cleaner and polished and more fluid. So yeah, I think it's an ever growing improvement thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's important as well. You know, we often get in that prep mindset, and I know a lot of the listeners are going to go, "Oh, I do that." You practice a lot in the mirror, of course. And then one
Yeah,
of my biggest sort of tips that I picked up along the way was actually spend time practicing without the mirror and
yeah.
learning, you know, because there's no mirror on
On
stage.
stage, no. No, we use it as our safety net as such, and then yeah, as soon as it's gone, it's all about taking that away and getting the, I always say, like the mind to muscle connection within each pose, so you know how it feels once you hit it. So when you haven't got that mirror, or a camera, you can kind of get into the pose and feel you're in the right position.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I said this once on a podcast. You might have heard it, you may have not. I got told by one of my first posing coaches 12 years ago to visualize the judges as pizza so that I could be seductive um and I'm like, huh? And I
What?
don't pizza is okay, but it's not my top choice. So I'm like, this is really weird. I won't say her name, but I was like, this
We've
is
all got our
really
own little tips too.
weird.
That is a good one.
Well, a very useful one, and it's something that I guess for me, it's like it's super important to be able to learn how to connect with the judges. So you're, you know, looking
Yeah,
at them, you spend a few moments on each judge and you try and engage, and then you're doing your thing. And I actually used to practice with like a line of teddies or something that I can like look at.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just different like tips and tricks, like you say, that you catch along the way, because when you're just like in your living room, you got the music on and you're just doing your posing, sometimes it can almost enforce this sort of robotic, and you get into comfort zones of maybe
Yeah.
sometimes bad habits as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. It is easy to pick up on bad habits. And
Mm.
that's why it's always good to pose with others and, get that feedback and film yourself as well and look back and go, right, that didn't work. This did work. I'm going to try and tweak that next time. It's always improving.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess as well, you know, I don't know if you go into these realms or whether it would be the actual coach as such, but trying to time your posing and prioritizing that in your day, where it's going to be where you can actually give it your all as much as possible. In a prep, of
Yeah.
course, we are, you know, pushing ourselves, but I found that sometimes I would like alternate. So it would be like sometimes I'll do it fasted in the morning when I'm just up, I've had a coffee or whatever, and then I do my posing rounds. And then sometimes it's useful to do some PM sessions when you are tired, because if you go on later when you're competing, it helps to sort of practice that as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Just, so you're kind of prepared, so you know what you're going to be like around the time. And just practicing, I just say little and often, as much as possible. Even if it's like you're waiting for the air fryer, just strike a pose. Just anywhere and everywhere. Heels, no heels, just practice as much as you can, because it all adds up.
Do you notice in yourself, have you picked up any sort of little niggles or repetitive things from, because of course, bikini, all of them, but bikini, you're sort of this contortionist a lot of the time, and that can bring about.
That's what I always say as well. Like, if you look at somebody on Instagram in a pose, it is an illusion that you are creating. If they stood straight up and down, their physique wouldn't look the same as they do in a pose. And I think people look at people in these poses and think, oh my God, like they look incredible, which they do. But at the same time, posing itself is an illusion. It's a contortion, like you said. It's all twisting and making it pop and really bringing out the best of your physique. But even if I stood up, just straight, I don't look as good as I do in a pose.
Yeah, it's wild. Like when I work with clients, and then I often have them work with a posing coach alongside that, and then of course in check-ins and things we go through it, and it's wild when you just get those little tweaks and you're like, you're looking at a completely different physique, and that sounds like it's blown out of proportion, but I just find that, even hitching that hip a bit more, or of course probably the hardest one, spreading the lats.
Yes, especially at the beginning, everyone struggles with spreading the lats because it's not a normal, a movement that we do. So it is hard to kind of get somebody to activate the lats and get into that pose, really get not just the lats but the delts to show as well. With my posing girls, we cover quite a lot as well, especially at the start when they're just starting out.
And do you do like the group lessons, or is it just one-to-one?
So I've started doing workshops and group posing with the girls that I've got, and then with other coaches as well, and something I look to do more in the future.
Yeah. Where are you based, just in case anyone's listening that is?
So I'm based in Nottingham and / Derby.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I think as well it's useful, isn't it? Because we know as competitors, a lot of the time we will travel. I actually met a podcast listener today at the gym, and she traveled miles for a bikini. So we do, if someone listens to this and they check out your Instagram and they want to do some posing with you, we do travel ordinarily for that. I've traveled 4 hours for a posing lesson, because if you find the right posing coach, I'm sure you'll agree, it's an important thing.
Yeah, you go out your way for it because it's an investment, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
You want to bring your best self to the stage, so it
Mm.
does make a big difference having that support and guidance.
Yeah, for sure. Now, he also asked, which one do I do first? There's two more questions. So I'd say we sort of touched on it already, but what would your biggest bit of advice be around parenting and prepping?
Well, I think I think once you've done, like, for the first time, obviously there was me trying to make it work, but I think the more I've done it, the more I've adapted to it, and it's just like normal life now. And in terms of, like, he's my mini coach and he keeps me on track with everything, and he knows, like, when mummy's not eating as much carbs, she's not going to be as energetic. And we just find activities that we can do together, which doesn't fatigue me as much. And it's just a balancing act. It's not like anything in life. It's just about balancing it all and spinning all the plates. We might not be always spinning perfectly, but we make it work.
I guess for him as well, seeing that level of dedication and actually getting some insight into what bodybuilding is. I don't see that, as long as it's guiding in the right direction, I don't see that would be anything other than a plus. Of course, there could be elements that delve into, I guess you're cautious of that, of like what we have to do. It's very strict, it gets very extreme. And then do you have times when it's like, I'll tell him what I need to in a simple term so it makes sense to him and it doesn't cause any like, oh no, what's happening to
I never try. I think it really helps having him as well, because I try and put on, when he's around and I am fatigued, I don't show him as much. I just you know, everything's fine sort of thing, everything's la-di-da. But yeah, it's about just masking it as well. I don't let him know that I'm feeling like absolute rubbish sometimes. And that helps in other situations as well. I'm able to, because it's a choice at the end of the day, and I don't want to walk around and be all miserable. So you just got to put on your, you know, your happy face and carry on with it.
I guess that helps as well that you are doing that for him, because it's like the more we bleed into a negative mindset in life in general, aside from
Yeah,
this, you know,
yeah,
the harder we think this is, the harder it's probably going to be. And that's super important, because that's probably quite a good tool as a mum to be able to, like you say, put on a braver face, as it were, to actually then have some reflection and go, well, this is a choice. And yes, it is
yeah.
hard, but you know, if you don't enjoy it, it's going to be a bloody hard ride, isn't it?
Well, I think, you know, having kids in general, some people might look at wanting to do bodybuilding and they say, oh, I can't do it because I'm a mom, or, you know, but I see it as a plus because you've already got a lot of those habits and skills in place already. In terms of like you said, masking stuff, and like even just going through like pregnancy, nothing's as bad as that. So if I can do that, prep's a breeze.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny. The other day, because I had cupping, I look like I've got a huge love bite still, but this lady come up to me, she said, what was it like? And I was like, it was intense, like it was quite savage.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I've had 3 children, so I think I'll be fine. And I was like, I can't I can't pretend to know what that feels like, but I can imagine you can pretty much do anything.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, yeah, that's probably the worst. I'd say it's up there with too fake.
For sure. Now, do you find, like, I guess more towards the tail end of a prep, do you ever get to the points where, when you're low on energy, you can feel like you want to be short with people and stuff? Has that ever like come to fruition with your son around, or have you been able to just be like, no, I need to hold this together?
I've got used to thinking before I speak and act. So when I am feeling a little bit short on tempo, or, you know, I'm feeling a bit hungry and he does something, I just like step back and think it's not, you know, I'm not putting it on him. So how I react, I just need to kind of take back and be like, just do this in a calm manner. But also, my family support me a lot. My mum supports me a lot with him. And anytime I do need that little bit of a break, she's always there on hand, especially like at the weekends and stuff when I'm mainly posing coaching or when shows are on. She either comes along with me, or if I just need that time, then she allows that.
It's like, Nia, you can have the time. I've got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
We need
she's a
that though,
lifesaver. Like I wouldn't be able to do it without her because I'm a single mum as well. So being having my mum support, like yeah, means a lot.
Yeah, for sure. It's having that support network, and of course trying to bring them on board as much as possible. But I feel like, when someone sees you're so dedicated, when it's someone that's a close one to you, someone that loves you, they can't help but want to, cheer you on and support you if they can, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
I think at the start she didn't understand as much. She, you know, as they do, like why don't you just have a bite, or why don't you just, you know, I'll just leave that. Or I used to stand there when she was making dinner. I used to just do my steps just by standing on the spot, and it used to wind her up. And then she came to my first show, and she was literally in tears, and she understood why I was doing it then. And then from that point, she's just been supported throughout. Like, okay, like whatever you need, I've got you, sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. How long have you been a single parent for?
From day dot, so
Oh,
11 years. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess you sort of don't know any different, as it were.
No, no, no. So it's always just been me and him. So we've been pretty close because it's always just me and him in the household anyway. So wherever I go, he goes.
I love that though, like your little buddy, like you say, your second coach. And I guess
Yeah.
that's cool for him. Like, I always think if people have, or children have parents as bodybuilders, I always think that must be so cool to be like, my mum's a bodybuilder.
Yes, he is very proud. Like he goes to school and he tells all his teachers. And when I go to parents, even they're like, "He's always talking about you," and blah blah blah. And then if he brings his friends around, he's always getting the sword out. I had to tell him it's not a toy, put it down. So he's like, yeah, but look what my mum's got. So yeah, he is really proud, and it's nice to have that like cheerleader slash coach on the side and always keeping me accountable as well. I can't get put a foot out of place, or he'll tell Michael. So
I love that. Mum's not doing what she's meant to, but I'm sure you're not that way anyway. Now, I have to
no,
ask as
no.
well, did you gain success straight away, or how when you did your first show, how did that go?
So I did the PCA first timers at the end of the year. So it was November, one of the last shows that they did before the Worlds. And I didn't expect, I went there with no expectations at all. And I won my category, and then I won the overall. So that I was very taken aback. And that's where kind of I was like, right, maybe this is for me. Maybe I found something, because I've always trained. Like I've trained for nearly 11 years now, and I feel like I've now found what I was training for all these years.
Yeah, it does make a difference when I speak with people on the podcast and I meet athletes, etc. If there's a sporting background, it's something I say that I think sometimes gets overlooked a little bit, but it does, in my opinion, make quite a difference because the training age is there. So it may not have been bodybuilding specific,
No.
in training for, and even if it's, you know, a different sport, I find swimming, gymnastics, these types of sports, CrossFit, they all
Yeah,
lend themselves quite well to a bodybuilding aesthetic.
yeah, definitely. Well, I was always like sport. Like I was one of the kids that liked PE at school.
Nice.
I was actually the PE teacher's pet. Anytime she went to the toilet, she was like, "Oh, do you want to, monitor, take over?" I was like, "Yeah, I will, I will." And I used to play netball and stuff like that. So I was always pretty active. But like you said, it was never full on bodybuilding training as such. Especially after having little man, it was more like cardio and a lot of ab work, because I was like, I'm not having a mummy tummy. I didn't want to. I didn't want to have, because everyone always says, when you have kids, you'll never look the same again. And I was like determined to be like, no, I will. I'll look even better.
Yeah, I love that sentiment because I do get lifestyle clients come to me and they've been told by previous coaches, you know, if they've had a child or maybe they're going through the menopause or about to approach that, they're like, oh, you know, the coach has said there's only a certain amount of things we can do. And I'm like, fuck that. Like we're going in
Yeah,
now. And then they
yeah,
start to prove to themselves and your journey in itself, it's like you had a child before and then you've gone into first timers, you've cleaned up and it's like, whoa, you know. And of course there is the other element of genetics, so that is something
yeah.
to consider as well for people. Now when you did the first timers show, did you find it was quite a competitive lineup, or were you not really looking and stuff because it's like a new thing to you?
Um, Everyone was pretty friendly in the first time show. We actually had a WhatsApp group chat, so I was in there with a majority of the people that was in the lineup. I would say it was competitive, especially like the overall. I didn't see it going that way. So yeah.
Because I guess as well, you know, it's good in regards to it's a level playing field, right? So you're all first timers. But
Yeah.
then if you do get an invite, 'cause you can then get invited to the finals of the universe or what have you, you're then going from first timer and winning the show overall. And then it's like you're exposed to pretty much everyone then, I guess, you know?
Yeah. And that's what we actually did.
Yeah.
So a week later, we went and did the Worlds.
Oh, 1 week.
Just as Yeah, 1 week later, we went and did the Worlds. Coach was like a bit, shan't we, shall we finish the season on a high sort of thing? But I was like, I want to see where I stand in a lineup with competitors that have competed before and just, see where we can go with this. And I came, was it fourth or fifth? I came fourth in the
Oh,
Worlds a week later. Yeah, so it was worth it.
yeah,
It
for
was worth
sure.
the experience and just standing up there with people that I've followed on Instagram and looked up to. So yeah, it's definitely worth just going for it and just seeing where I stand.
That's a great message as well, because we can either be demotivated by people coming above us or we can be inspired and we can actually be critical on ourselves. And I think that's super important as an athlete if
Yeah.
you are pursuing this, because there's nothing worse than when people come off stage and they're losing their shit and they're saying the judges don't know what they're talking about. And you think, look, you can't change the judges' minds
No.
unless you work on what they say. And I understand, of course, it's disappointing and you feel that it's a heavy load as such when you're maybe thinking that you're placed higher or what have you. But we need to be grateful in this sport because we really don't know.
No, you really don't know, and it's nice to see where you stand.
You said before we jumped on, when we were talking about when they say your name. So this is important for competitors. If you've got a name that's maybe away from the norm, as it were,
Yeah.
do you actually say to the judges how to pronounce your name so they don't say it wrong? I think that's quite a good tip, to be fair.
Yeah, if you can speak to either the judges or what do you call them? The jester?
MC or yeah.
The MC. Don't know why I got that. Yeah, if you can speak to the MC and just say, this is how you pronounce my name, it does make a difference, because I've had it where people have said, and we have Nia Hollingworth, and my face just goes, and I'm walking on like,
It's Nia.
Nia, and then coach is like, smile, and I'm just
I've
there with
seen
a
it
fun
though.
face.
I have seen it, and you're like, and have you ever forgotten your badge number and they've been calling your number and
No, I've not done that yet. I've not done that one.
you do see that? And I think sometimes
Yeah.
maybe is that level of like either that the athlete maybe doesn't think they're going to get the call out, or it's this like depleted, I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it can feel like that. Just you've got fuzzy head up there. Like you have to be very stage awareness, and just listen to what's being said, because it's so easy to just be in your own bubble and be like, "What's going on?"
For sure. Now, after you did those two shows, did you then end that first season?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So we finished with the 2 shows at the end of the year, and then had a little maintenance.
Yeah. That's quite hard, that weird maintenance type reverse out period, isn't it? It's like a
Yeah.
no man's land, if you know what I mean.
It is, but I think knowing that I was going to compete the following year
Yeah.
kept me motivated. And I always say, like, if I'm eating to improve, I'm not eating to make my prep harder. So that keeps me disciplined and on track.
For sure. Did you find that the tactics were to sort of maintain a good level of composition, but of course bring in some more food to promote health, recovery, etc., and then
Yeah. So it's like maintenance, improvement, so slight increase food and calories and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't find it too difficult, because prior to bodybuilding, I've never been a foodie anyway, to be fair. Never been one for like looking at food and being like, oh, I want to try that. If anything, I needed to eat more prior to bodybuilding. I'd probably eat 1 or 2 meals a day,
Whoa. Compared
and
to a
that was just
Cuban
normal.
diet.
Just working, like if I had time, I'd have breakfast. If I didn't have breakfast, then I'd have a meal deal at work, and then I'd come home maybe and then have a meal with little man,
Mm.
and put in something sweet. I didn't really have like 5 meals. To me, it still seems like a lot, even though it's a little and often, because I wasn't, I didn't really eat or fuel my body properly prior to bodybuilding.
Yeah, that is as well. That ties into where you said you're a bit of a cardio bunny and doing abdominal work. It is for sure, I notice this, there is this association, and I think there probably always will be,
Yeah,
that's sort of that high intensity or high repetitions or long workouts, less food. And
hip classes and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah. And then it's the bodybuilding that, if you get the right coach, hopefully that can educate you and support you rather than just say, well, eat the fucking food. It's like, well, actually, let's nurture where this came from. And then you realize your body looks better with more food. And
With
that's
more
really
food.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really nice spot to be, because we are just inundated with these like thought processes and belief systems, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I was just eating, like, even in lockdown, it was just protein bars and protein shakes and just anything with protein in it.
Easy.
But not proper meals.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that, so you had those first two shows, and you did sort of a maintenance health phase, etc., and then you went back in. So after that second part of the season, as it were, did you then do a growth phase?
We did an improvement phase.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, so we was in a calorie surplus and then went back into prep. I can't remember when it was now.
do you find that hard eating in the surplus a bit of a mind game?
N- no, because I feel like I know I have to do my research, understand the purpose behind everything I'm doing, and then in my head, I can get to terms with it. I just have to know the why,
Yeah, yeah.
and that really helps me stay on track.
Mm, mm. Do you find that with Coach Fox that you are welcome to ask lots of questions and feed that learning and that education?
Yeah, definitely. Like if there's anything that comes up or I'm unsure of, I can always ask him, and he will always come back with, he always says he serves a shit sandwich. So
I love
he will
those.
he'll say like the hard truths, and then he'll come in. No, he'll come in with something nice and soft to start with. Then he'll come in with the hard stuff, and then he'll end off and ease off again with the nice. And so it always, it doesn't seem too harsh,
Yeah,
and
it's
you can
important.
understand and you can relate to it as well.
Yeah, and that's learning the athlete as well, I guess, because the more, and I'm sure you'll promote this as well, if you work with a coach for a long period of time, it really does lend itself, especially these multiple phases, because the coach is learning your body as you
Yeah,
move through every single phase, aren't they?
yeah, definitely. He knows me more than I know myself now. So yeah, in
For
terms
sure.
of my body. Yeah.
So when you went back in for the second part of the season, because of course you've got multiple pro cards, how did that pan out?
Well, I am the most indecisive person you will probably meet, and I registered for an NFM show the night before. Obviously, I asked Michael first, like if he thought I was ready, and he says, "Yeah, I think we can go for it." So I registered. We headed down to Manchester, and that was the first show I did from second season. And then I got the NFM pro status. So that was my first show of the second season.
Mm. Well, that also highlights sometimes if we're not as stressed or, over fixated on a show, sometimes
Yeah.
we can actually get a better physique response because you're not as, it's like this hyper focus sometimes. I know
I
that.
would say that, but I actually came on my period the night before,
Oh,
and I was wearing a yellow bikini, honestly. It
you
could have
blew
all
it
gone
out.
wrong. Could have gone so wrong.
Well, that's also, it is a positive thing, isn't it, to still have your cycle?
Yeah, so I've always kept my cycle in every prep, and obviously last year was a pretty long prep. We had obviously a little bit of a maintenance phase between season A and B, but I kept my period throughout, and that was one of the reasons I allowed myself to keep going, because that is a good sign for health, isn't it? So
Yeah, sometimes it can take a while to come back as well if it's been gone for a long period of time. There is, of course, this association to potentially that you put more food in and suddenly that remedies that the cycle will come back. But there's a lot going into a prep, and PDs, SARMs, things are being used. And of course, that does impact. And, well, I know myself, I didn't have a period for a long period of time, and that was natty. So,
yeah,
it's a lot goes into it, but I really like
I'm not good as well, by
mm,
the way.
yeah, well, again, it's, when your journey where you've sort of gone through it and you've done the photo shoot, and it's like, this could be a thing, and then you've then got as far as you have, that is an important message as well if people are looking to get into the sport.
Yeah, definitely,
Mm,
definitely. Health comes first,
yeah.
always.
Do you have any temptations
What do you mean?
did you say you're natural? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever think about whether you go assisted?
I think where I am now, I want to see how far I can push it, because I don't feel like I've had a proper off season in terms of to be able to grow. With the end of last year, we received a wild card to compete this year, so we're going with the opportunity to take that up. But yeah, after this season, I want a proper off season to see what I can do with that as a natural athlete, and then we'll see from there.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, you know, from the podcast, this is what I always try and promote, because actually knowing if you want to do this for a long period of time, if you got the opportunity. Now, I know people are going to be listening thinking, well, you know, my coach said go on them straight away, or they were led to believe to go on them straight away. They wanted to go on them straight away, and we can't take back time. But if we catch people that are sort of just getting into this and they're first timers, you're showing what can be done. Now, of course, the sport background, the genetics, that is something we need to consider. But you sort of, if you get the right coach, they can advise what they feel is potentially possible, what federations to choose, and this type of thing.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that, especially for a first timer, just see what you can do naturally, see what you can achieve within that first season. And then if you get up there and you really enjoy it and you want to go away and build upon that, then then maybe consider it then, but not until after then.
For sure.
And not at a young age either, I don't think, because you want to fully develop.
Yeah, and see what's possible. Also, you know, when you choose federations, I guess an interesting question for you would be, when you're working with people as posing clients, do you find that sometimes if someone's a bit sort of open to what federation they would go with, do you go, okay, so I think your physique would maybe suit X, or is that not really?
I think depending on where they're at in their journey, like the first timers, I would say just get the most experience that you can, because I myself have done it, competed in multiple federations, and it's just seeing where your physique stands and what they're after within the federation, and getting that feedback, which I think is vital to be able to go, okay, maybe my physique does suit this federation, or maybe I need to go away and work on certain aspects to bring my physique up to the level that they want me to bring. So yeah, I just think just gain the experience, get the feedback, and then work from there.
I have to ask as well, you're posing coaching. Do you ever get people that come to you as a posing coach and you maybe feel that they're not ready for the show that they're getting ready for, or do you try and just do the posing lesson and leave that to the coach?
Yeah, so I leave that to the coaches, but I always like put on Instagram and stuff like that my voice in terms of what I think, like how far ahead you should start. Like you should always, as soon as you want to compete and you've got that thought, start the posing straight away. Don't matter if you've got your shows lined up or your prep lined up, or even way before that. Just get posing done and practice from the offset, just so you are ready, because it just takes so long to gain that flow and that confidence. And I think if you rush it, you're going to struggle in terms of trying to do prep, trying to pose, and there's a lot going on. It's very overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure. And do you get clients that will ever sort of say to you, do you think I should do this, and it's against their coach? Because I get this through the podcast, you see, and I always say, look, I'm not going to overstep the mark here. You're going to need to speak to your coach about that. Have you had that sort of encounter as well?
Yeah, I always just say your coach knows best. Yeah, they've known you longer than I have. We'll go through the posing and I'll try and teach you as best I can within the time frame that we've got. But in terms of if you think I think you should compete, I'd leave that down to your coach.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things, isn't it? I think we're probably quite similar in regards to, we want to help people, but you never know what's going on in that individual relationship and what the coach has said, what the client said, and how that's going. And it's not, well, there's so much data that's collected from a coaching standpoint. So everything you give Michael, it's like we can't advise. I mean, when we don't know the ins and outs, it's like we can't really advise that type of stuff.
No. Especially, they have that relationship already, and I'd say your coach always knows best. So
I'm not even stepping the mark here. I don't want anyone to come after me.
No, but I would say start as early as possible with posing. Don't leave it till last minute. Don't be in a prep and then decide to work on your posing halfway through, like straight off the back, as soon as you have that thought to compete, get it nailed, book in a session, get the foundations in, and just rinse and repeat. It's all about repetition when it comes to posing.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes, well, like I mentioned earlier, what time of day do you do it and things? Sometimes you're thinking, like so much goes into a day, every single day of prep, and sometimes the contortionist vibes, it's like I can't even face it. Like I'm thinking, oh God, I'm so knackered. But then I always find get some music on, like make a posing playlist
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Get
Music really helps, to get in that vibe and get moving a little bit more. But also, I always say about mobility and stretching. That is so important when it comes to posing. And if you have that already in your routine, like that's a bonus. Or if you already have regular recovery sessions like sports massage, it really just helps. It aids your posing. And I feel like that gets, is an afterthought a lot of the time. And when I do group posing sessions, I always drill the importance of that. And if I've had people with mobility issues, like I've had people like 65 plus, or people that have had spinal injuries, and it's all about trying to get them into these poses as best as they can, but also work on their mobility alongside the posing, so it's not an issue, and trying to just bring out the best of their physique, because not everybody has that mobility. They have certain restrictions. I myself have a good side and a bad side. I have this year tried to work on the bad side. So yeah, everyone's got no one's perfect.
And there's so many little tweaks you can do. We both know that. Like,
Yeah.
And it can be quite hard because we're obviously judged on symmetry, and a lot of people have some sort of imbalance because of life, like
Yeah.
training for years and what have you. Especially as well, I work with mums, not even on the competitive side, but for weekly check-ins, and you start to notice, particularly as someone gets leaner, that where they've had the baby on one hip,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
start to see this sort of twist in the hips, and then it's trying to work out, can we do some exercises to start building up, maybe some single
Yeah.
arm and things like this. But certainly, we gain this over life, but it's important as well to not see that as a negative, because all you can do is try and train that area up. You
Mhm.
can try and pose in, as you said, it's an illusion, so
Yeah.
you
Pose it
can
out.
hide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although it's hard, isn't it, when you're aware, especially if I notice that if there's like a pinch in the lat or the delt, and
Yeah.
there's that sort
It's
of.
hard, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I had an imbalance, and I think it's probably still a little bit there, but I've done my best in my off season to work it out. I just had one shoulder that was slightly bigger than the other. When it's a thing of yours, you notice it out of anyone. Probably no one else notices it, but I notice it, and it does my head.
I've got one shoulder that like slightly round. So when I do my posing, when I do like the two bros style, where you do your back pose with the
Yeah,
hands, I have to have like one hand is a normal hand, and the other hand
yeah.
is like weird thing. But you obviously, the judges can't see that front
No,
bit. So it's like,
no, it's just being aware, isn't it? And then trying to manipulate it and get as symmetrical as possible within the poser. But yeah, we all have our weaknesses.
yeah. And you mentioned cues. So if you have to learn these adaptations to, because some of them it's so awkward, but then the judges wouldn't know, but you're like trying to do this weird weird stuff
Yeah,
to highlight
yeah,
your strengths, and it's getting those cues that correct your physique as an individual. And I think that is important, because I mean, the listeners are going to have different posing coaches, different coaches, etc. But
yeah.
some posing coaches may not. I mean, I've done it where I've done a prep where I've just done group posing as an example. So like 3
Yeah,
letters.
so it's very general, isn't it? And you don't get that.
Yeah.
But posing, yeah, it is individual, because, like you said, the little details and being able to get your physique to sit in the poses is going to be different for me than it is to you. So yeah, it's those little details that make the difference. And yeah, I don't think everyone understands that. But workshops are good. Group posing is good for confidence and stuff like that, and getting the general gist of things. But when in terms of like bringing the best out of your physique, that one-to-one, you can't beat it.
For sure. I feel like the group stuff on reflection, when I've placed it at different points in different preps, I feel like that's almost like a cherry on top, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's those one-to-one, because I don't think as well a lot of athletes understand how those one-to-ones, it's like a training session. Like it's,
Yeah.
you know,
I get a lot of people like, oh, like I'm had enough now.
I
So
also,
like I've trained before this and I'm sweating again. Yeah, it is. It is hard work posing this. I think people underestimate it as well.
I think as well, like, I don't know if you've had it when you've been to posing lessons with a posing coach or, you know,
Yeah.
etc., where you can feel quite nervous that you're having a one-to-one lesson.
Yeah.
So your
Okay.
adrenaline's going, and then like ordinarily I'll come out of a posing lesson, I'm like, I didn't realize how not probably anxious is probably the wrong word, but like you want it to go well, don't you? Because
Yeah.
in a prep you can become a little bit more sensitive to wanting everything to go right so that you're on
Yeah.
track for
The
the
littlest thing can feel massive and crap.
now that actually leads into the third and final question from Coach Fox. What has been your biggest battles from each prep?
For me, my biggest battle is it's always the start of prep, to be fair. It's just adjusting from, with the food going down and getting back into the routine and not having so much flexibility with everything and just switching that switch on again. I feel like the start of prep for me is always a battle. But then once I start getting into the gist of things and I start finding my routine as a parent is not a thing, by the way. He's going to break up in 2 weeks for the holidays, so routine's going to be out the window. But yeah, it's about just adapting to switching that switch on and being like, right, this is it now, all in, like no deviation from the plan. So it's always, yeah, the start of prep, I always find difficult. But then saying that and thinking about it, the end of prep is always hard.
It's wild.
Yeah, because it's not as much the food for me. I always get that, especially my last prep. So I finished in Spain and we got the pro card, and I thought I was going to be on top of the world. Okay, like I felt like that was that's what I wanted out of out of PCA. I wanted to earn that pro card, and that's why I kept coming back, and that's why I decided to do Spain and do the Worlds, and to actually achieve it was crazy. But then afterwards, it was a weird feeling. It's like I felt ungrateful for feeling the way I did, but
Yep.
I was sad. I was sad,
Yep. I know what
and
you're saying.
it wasn't, I don't know. I just felt really sad that it was all over because I enjoy a show day. I enjoy the process, and that's what I really learned about from my last season. That was the big takeaway: is it's the process for me. It's not the end. It's not the as much as I would love a show day. It's
Yeah.
the work that's working up to it that I really enjoy, and that's why I think I really enjoy bodybuilding. Whether it's in prep, in off season, I enjoy the journey. And even now, I'm like, I want everything to slow down because before I know it, I'll be in Vegas and it'll be all over. So can we just slow down? Time just goes so fast.
For sure. It is, there's certainly merit in what you said there about how are you driven? Like, are you purpose driven? So are you embracing the journey, or is it the end goal? And there's no right or wrong per se, but obviously if you are just super fixated on winning a show, that can have its downfalls to a certain degree in a subjective sport.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree on that.
mm. When is Vegas?
October the 17th.
And is that the one show this year, or are you doing any other shows?
That is not the one show. No,
Is it secret or?
no. So depending on how I come in, there may be one in the next 9 weeks, and then I need to do a regional for two bros.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Then we have Vegas. Then I'm gonna do PCA Worlds in Amsterdam.
Oh.
And then the last show will be, well, this one's a bit of a secret, but MPC, the Big Man Weekender.
Okay, so that's why you'll do the regional.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's just because it looks like epic production, like the show itself, the stage. I've only ever done a Two Bros show. So it'll be nice to see what the NPC's shows are like and just get that experience. And yeah, just step up on that stage. It'll be fun.
Yeah, a lot of people do rate the NPC vibe because going international as well, it's, you know, you have to do regional and what have you in the UK, but a lot of people
Yeah.
say it's a really good experience, NPC in general.
Yeah, it does look like it. And like even the way they're advertising it and stuff like that with a big build up. I just feel like it's going to be so much fun.
So multiple peak weeks, because of course that brings different depths of a prep. I've certainly found, like, if you're doing one show and then it's over, it's very different to if you're sort of, I call it hanging out, but like, you know, when you're doing multiple ones, it's quite a lot for your body to do a peak and then come back down, do another peak.
Yeah.
Talking with your coach a lot is super
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we did it a lot last year. How many shows did we do last year? 12 shows last year.
12.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Wow.
I started in May,
Yeah.
finished in November.
Did you? And you were just
Yeah.
driven by happiness for bodybuilding.
Yeah, I just enjoyed it. Well, what happened is, so we did the NFM show, got the pro status. Then I did another NFM and I won the overall and got the ticket for Texas, which was in October. So that's what kept me going until the end of till season B.
And did you notice a difference competing internationally? I prefer it.
I did prefer it because I just felt like as soon as I got off the floor or the flight itself, I just felt it was a win anyway, just to be there. So I was just excited because I've been to America, Disneyland, but I've never been to Texas before. And like everything was just bigger and exciting. And even like the house that we stayed in, it was like something off that you see on TV with the massive island in the kitchen. And it was just a really good experience, like sharing the flight with the athletes, and the house. And yeah, just really enjoyed it because there was well, not all of them, but most of them, but that was in my house were older as well. So I was able to like learn a lot from them as well and how they did prep and their like old school methods. Like I didn't know drinking was a thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
They had shots with every meal. I was like, what? I was like, Coach, what am I having up?
Should I be drinking red wine or white wine?
Yeah, red wine. I'm not gonna lie. I do a red wine sometimes. The night before.
Well, I think from when, because I didn't used to, and then I don't know what season, maybe like my fourth season, it was on the show day. There was some athletes having like prosecco and white wine and stuff like that, and I was like, I've never tried this, and I was like, well, you know, we're in the middle of the season here. I did multiple shows that year. I think I'll try it just to see what it's like because so many people do it, and had
Yeah,
this like little sip of white wine. I mean, it was brilliant because I don't drink, so I was like, I feel really good. Like I just
yeah. You just feel happy. It's like, woo. It's like just wakes you up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, with that season being so long, did you, when you came out of the season, when you started reversing out, is that what you found the hardest compared to prepping itself, would you say?
So you're on about after last year, going
Yeah.
into this year.
Mm,
Well, because I knew I only had 6 months
yeah.
between last season and this season, I knew I had to, off the back, make the most of it. Being a natural athlete, I couldn't take my foot off the pedal. That's what I told myself. So it was straight away, straight back in the gym. I was like, push the food up as much as you can straight off the bat because I want to make the most of this growing phase. And that kept me motivated, knowing that I'll obviously be going into another season.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, where I haven't had a full off season yet in terms of like, because they always say, I say 6 months, but people say that's not, you haven't had 6 months, you've only had 3 months.
Oh, because of coming out of prep.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I did that for multiple years, and you can still for sure progress, but it's the rapidity is quicker. And of course, if you know you've got a timeline where you're then going back on stage fairly soon, like you say, it's a very different focus to if we're reversing out slowly and we've got a longer off season, or this is where
Yeah.
it's so individual. And I'm sure you'd agree, you can't look on Instagram and go, well, she's doing that, because you don't know
No,
what the timeline is,
no. Everyone is different, and they handle it different. And I see a lot of it on Instagram, and I think I was scared of an off season because obviously we only did a maintenance slash whatever we call it
Recovery.
improvement. So going into an off season and seeing it on Instagram, I was seeing like this negative as a negative thing because everyone always posts about it like, oh, off season this, off season that, it's horrible. And then you see a lot of people calling themselves fat and fluffy, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and I look at them, I'm like, you look amazing. Like how can you call yourself that? And I'm sure if an average normal gym goer, someone just starting out, was to look at them, they'll think they're crazy calling themselves fat and fluffy.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those people that see stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm going to be the opposite. It motivates me to be like, no, I look amazing. It's off season. Yeah, well, it's normal. I look normal now. Stage lean is far from normal. Off season is normal. Even pushing calories up and stuff like that, getting to a weight it's not even a weight thing for me. I'm not focused on my weight. It's more a look and how I feel in myself. And like you said, going from one prep into an off season, but with that focus of getting on stage again, you've kind of already got that in mind. So when I was eating and stuff like that, I'm eating to improve. I'm not seeing it as all this food sort of thing. So yeah, I think it was just that kind of mindset going into it that really helped me stay focused and keep me grounded with it all as well.
Yeah, it would be super cool for your own self-development as well when you do go into a longer off season, because it'd be interesting for you to sort of test yourself, because that's new realms, having a longer
Yeah,
period of time, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. But I am actually looking forward to it. I don't think I'd enjoy off season so much. I'm looking forward to off season. I've got lots of plans with like business and stuff like that, and traveling with little man. So yeah, I am looking forward to it
For sure.
and seeing what I can achieve as well within that time. I'm excited to see what I can bring in the off season.
As well, like we said earlier, when you do compete, okay, so what can I improve on? If you get someone finish ahead of you, if you don't win every show, it's like, well, actually,
Yeah.
what could I take from that as a victory to fuel the off season as well?
Yeah, yeah. That's what, like, if I've done future. So when I've come, like second place, I've always looked at the winner, and it's motivated me to then be like, okay, I need to get my ass back in the gym, and I need to work and improve. And then you take that feedback and you work on it, and that's what it's all about. I don't think there's no winning or losing. It's just forever improving.
I don't know about you, but I found it super useful after winning a show, coming second, because I thought, okay, it's not the path is written that I'm going to win every show now. And it
No,
actually,
no,
it changed my mindset with show day. I'm like, I'm here to work, and I'm going to fucking enjoy every moment of this, because
yeah,
it can be so fun show day. I think, I guess, you need to have confidence that you're ready. So your
yeah,
condition being there. And also, we've spoken a lot about posing. There's a reason for that. Because if you know you can pose, if you know you can do your routine, if you've got posing fitness, if it is second nature, I'm sure you'll agree that hits new when you get on stage.
yeah, yeah. When you even just watching the shows, you can see straight away when someone comes out and they can just present themselves, and it draws your attention to them, and obviously the judges as well. So it really does make a difference if you can present yourself well on stage. And I think you can outpose a physique that's better than you as well. You can definitely do that. So it is about being able to present yourself. It really does make a difference.
I'd be interested actually to ask you, if you've got a posing client and maybe they've got to take a period of time out of posing, I wonder if you share a similar mindset to me, that actually sometimes if you need to have a gap from, if something's going on in your personal life, or
Yeah.
an injury or something like this, sometimes actually having a gap rather than doing it like not with your full intention, or doing it where you might pick up old habits and then going back to it, I would say, generally speaking, depending on the scenario, is a good
Yeah.
bit of advice. Would you agree?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we do need to take a step back, whether it's posing anything in life really, and just have that mental break and then come back afresh and motivated to be like, okay, now I've got the time, I'm gonna nail this. Obviously don't do that whilst you're in prep, but like in an off season or what or so on and so forth. Just like, yeah, sometimes we need that a little bit of mental refresh because it can be repetitive and yeah, just lose focus and drive with it all.
Like peak week sometimes, I mean, I was checking in 3 times a day at some points, and you're like,
The check-ins for me, check-ins and steps is my worst thing about prep. I used to turn around to because before all this, like even taking a picture in my gym clothes was fine, but in a bikini, you would never see that on Instagram or on any social media. So, body, used to send in my check-ins. I'm like, is this all right to send to you? Because it feels a bit weird. And he's like, yes, it's bodybuilding. And then I've got used to it. But yeah, it is a weird old sport, isn't it?
well, I say this on the pod, and when I talk to people, I'm like, when you actually talk about, so what do you do? And it's like, oh, I do this bodybuilding. And then when you talk about it, you think, this is some wild thing, but it's so cool. See, he knows it's cool as well.
Yeah. He loves a 60-second pose down, don't you? Yeah.
So does he come abroad with you as well?
Yeah, so he came to Texas. He didn't come to Spain because it was the last minute. We booked it last minute. So yeah, I think he possibly is coming to Vegas,
Oh,
depending because he's starting his secondary school. So I want him to settle in, and he'll only have been there like 3 weeks before we fly. So just seeing how you get on in the first few weeks, and then asking if he can have that time off because it is a bit of a critical time, and it just starting secondary school. I don't want him to miss out on friends and stuff like that. So we'll see how we get on close to the time.
yeah, I guess it's that balancing act, isn't it? And that can transfer, whether it's your partner or your child, of trying to give what you can. And you described that perfectly earlier about actually bringing them on board and saying, mummy's a bit tired, or having less carbs and things like that. But also
Yeah.
remembering that that's someone else's life as well. And yes, bodybuilding is extremely important to us, but we can often forget the closest ones to us, actually, the effect that that can have as well.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, definitely.
mm. It is tough. Do you find that when you're in the improvement and the maintenance phases, that you can go for like little meals together and stuff?
Yeah, so coach, even now, like we have, I think it's like my fourth meal, and he's called it meal with Zion, so meal with my little man. And yeah, so he always makes sure that I have a meal that we can eat together. I do enjoy having an off plan when in off season or improvement season. Yeah, so he likes the McDonald's every now and again, and I'll just have a Pepsi Max or the worst comes to worst, a grilled chicken salad.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I've had salads from there before, because it's like you sort of become, I don't know about you, but you become a bit of a like, well, I don't want to have my off plan as that. I want to have it as like something.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that they get me in there is the frappes.
Oh, I haven't tried them.
So they've just done with the Lotus Biscoff, and now the newish one is the Oreo one, which he had the other day, and he said is really nice.
You're like,
Oh, I'm yet to try, but it's only limited, so I'm guessing it'll be gone by the time I come out of that. It's getting big now.
yeah. Super, super cute. I love that he shares the journey with you. It's so cute, because it's like, oh, it is so cool though to have a parent that is motivated. I always say that I wish my mum got me into sport as a child. I don't want to obviously turn back time or whatever, but
Yeah,
it is what it is. But I think it's super important as well and it sounds like, and this would be good from the episode, that you're getting that balance of being able to parent and push and pull things to make it work, so that it doesn't impact him in any other way than in an like inspirational way, if that makes sense.
yeah. So just show him all the good things about it, and just bring it with me as much as I can, and give him a little bit more insight, and it does push him, because he's saying, I want to do so many push-ups a day, and I want to eat like you, I want to build muscle, like, and the other day I was pretty impressed. So he was getting changed and he was doing a bicep curl, and he's like, Mom, I'm happy with my body.
Oh my
And
God.
I was like, I love that. I love that. So he's like, when I was 9, I wasn't so happy, but now I'm 11 and I'm a bit bigger now. I'm happy with my body, Mum. So I was like, okay. So we're getting that positivity. It's coming across. It's coming across.
Oh my God, I love that. Oh, what a sentiment. That is
So
so.
yeah, he does want to put on muscle. That is his goal. But yeah, he's happy with his body at the minute. And his
So.
little biceps.
Mummy, look, Mummy, look.
Yeah, always. Honestly, he's always showing me a double bicep.
I love that. I love that. What a sentiment to wrap up our episode today. Now, of course, if people want to follow your journey all over the globe, it seems, then I will put your Instagram handle in the description for posing. And if people wanted to inquire for that, I know on your Instagram you've got how to book it and things like that. Is that
Yeah.
always the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram it's literally all pinned to the top, and then obviously the link in my bio.
And it's balanced. Is it balanced fit with Nia?
No, yeah.
Balanced fit. Yeah, because I have to try and remember Instagram handles, and I'm like, I've got to try and remember this.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because everyone doesn't just have their name, so it's hard to remember what their Instagram name is, or you do it the other way where you remember their Instagram name but not their their actual name.
Oh, I know you. I know your handle.
Yeah, literally, I do that all the time. It's so bad. Oh.
Well, before we actually end, I have to ask you, where did the Instagram handle name come from? Now we're on the subject.
Well, I do describe my life as a balancing act in general.
I love that.
So, so at first I thought, as time's progressed, when I started, it was more about being a mum and getting, because as a PT, that was my thing, setting up the Instagram. So it was about like balanced fitness. But then as I've progressed and gone into bodybuilding and stuff, I always say, like, to coach, I don't think I need to change my name. I need to rebrand and stuff like that, which I will do actually. But it still stands. I'm still balancing everything. So there's still some aspect, or some aspect of balance. So that's why we're Balance Fit with now, balancing all the plates.
Yeah. Well, and imposing heels, you need to balance. There's multiple things
Yeah.
here.
And in bikini in itself, the category, it's all about balance and symmetry.
I see what you
So
did.
yeah.
At the moment, if you'd like to follow, that is the Instagram handle. And watch this space. Who knows what it will be in the future?
You never know.
I love that. Well, thank you for your time. And I'm so glad that you accepted my invite to push out your comfort zone in a very different way.
Yes. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
I told you, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. It's just like a talk with friends. But thank you so much.
And thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.